The composer who had stunned the world with his Prelude in C-sharp minor at just 19 was now publicly humiliated, unable to write a single note for 3 years. Was he a genius or a failure? Why did his career almost end? What changed everything? So how did he recover? At 13, he entered its doors already marked as a prodigy, but raw talent alone was never enough here. The conservatory demanded more, requiring precision, stamina, and an almost scientific approach to music. Every day, Rachmaninoff faced hours of technical drills under the watchful eye of Nikolai Zverev, a teacher famous for his strict routines and unyielding standards. Zverev's apartment became a crucible for young pianists. Students practiced four-hand reductions of symphonic scores, dissected complex passages, and repeated scales until their fingers ached. Zverev insisted on discipline above all, enforcing early morning practice and group lessons that blurred the line between family and competition. Alexander Saloty, Rachmaninoff's cousin and another towering figure at the conservatory, took a different approach. Saloty's lessons focused on expressive tone and the art of phrasing, pushing Rachmaninoff to find a singing quality in every note. While Zverev built the technical foundation, Saloty shaped the poetry. The balance between these mentors forged a pianist who could thunder through the most demanding passages and then, in the next moment, conjure a whisper of melancholy from the keys. Academic life at the conservatory was relentless. The curriculum, modelled on the German tradition, required mastery of harmony, counterpoint, form, and orchestration. Sergei Rachmaninoff, the stern professor of counterpoint, drilled students in strict voice leading and motivic development. Weekly exams left little room for error. Written critiques from faculty were blunt, sometimes ruthless, but they sharpened Rachmaninoff's musical instincts. The expectation was clear. Only those who could unite technical brilliance with compositional depth would succeed. Beyond the classroom, Zverev opened doors to Moscow's musical elite. Private salons introduced Rachmaninoff to the likes of Tchaikovsky, whose concerts he attended, and whose melodic generosity he quietly absorbed. These encounters set a standard and a pressure for greatness that would shadow Rachmaninoff's every move. The conservatory's grading system rewarded the rare student who could perform with both flawless technique and genuine artistry, and Rachmaninoff was determined to be that student. By the time he graduated, Rachmaninoff's command of the piano was already legendary among his peers. His hands, stretched by years of daily drills, could span intervals most pianists only dreamed of. But the real transformation was internal. The discipline, the exposure to genius, and the relentless pursuit of excellence had forged not just a pianist, but a musician prepared to bear the weight of expectation. In this crucible, Rachmaninoff's power was not just physical, it was the product of a mind trained to conquer both the instrument and the doubts that would soon threaten to undo him. December 15, 1892. A packed hall in Moscow waits, restless, for the next young hopeful to prove himself. Sergei Rachmaninoff, just out of the conservatory, sits at the piano. The piece is new, his own. Its first notes, a slow tolling bell in C-sharp minor, cut through the chatter. The sound is stark, almost funereal, but it draws the audience closer, breath held. Then a surge. The left hand thunders, the right hand carves out a melody that aches with longing. This is not student work. It is arresting, defiant, and unmistakably Russian in its sweep. The debut of the Prelude in C-sharp minor is more than a student's first outing. It is a lightning strike. Critics in the Moskovsky Vedomosti call it magnetic darkness. The press, always hungry for new legends, declares Rachmaninoff a prodigy worthy of Tchaikovsky's city. Within days, the piece is the talk of Moscow. Musicians scramble for copies, audiences demand encores. The manuscript lands on the desk of publisher P. Jurgenson, who wastes no time. By May 1893, the first print run, 5,000 copies, vanishes from the shelves in 3 months. For a debut, these are numbers usually reserved for established masters. As the Prelude spreads, so does Rachmaninoff's reputation. Invitations arrive from Berlin and Vienna. Sheet music crosses borders, sometimes without his name attached, pirated, but unmistakable. The opening chords become a calling card, echoing in salons and concert halls across Europe. For the first time, the young composer's power is public, stamped in ink and ringing from every piano in Moscow. But with every review, Every sold-out edition, the pressure mounts. The press wants another miracle. Jurgensen's letters press for new works. Rachmaninoff, barely 20, is now a public figure. His next move watched by critics and rivals alike. He is no longer just a student of Zverev or Soloty. He is the composer of the Prelude, the one piece everyone wants to hear, and the one he will never escape. In these months, Rachmaninoff tastes the heady rush of success and the first hints of its weight. The Prelude's triumph is not just a personal victory. It is a promise, a public contract that genius will keep delivering. The world has noticed, and it is hungry for more. The stage is set for glory or collapse. The next note could change everything. The Great Hall of the Moscow Conservatory is packed, but the air is sharp with skepticism. Rachmaninoff's Symphony No. 1, his first major orchestral work, is about to be unveiled. Alexander Glazunov stands on the podium, baton raised. The first notes sound, uncertain and already adrift. The orchestra falters, tempos lurch, tension leaks from the music. In the audience, confusion curdles into discomfort. By the symphony's midpoint, the mood has turned. Laughter bubbles up in the hall, first muffled, then open as the structure unravels. Some critics later claim Glazunov was unprepared, or worse, indifferent. Others whisper about his rumoured drinking that night. But the press spares no one. The next morning, Moscow's newspapers go for the throat. Novoye Vremya calls the work incoherent, a labyrinth of noise. Moskovskaya Vedomosti writes that Rachmaninoff's ambition has drowned in Wagnerian excess. The word failure appears in headline after headline. For a composer barely 24, the effect is immediate and brutal. Letters and diary fragments from the weeks that follow show a man stunned by the scale of public scorn. Friends try to soften the blow, but the message is everywhere. The prodigy has crashed. Rachmaninoff's own words, written to his sister Lydia, are raw. I feel as though the whole world has turned its back on my music. Invitations dry up. Publishers hesitate. The very critics who once hailed the Prelude in C-sharp minor now circle, penning lines about overreaching youth and Russian tragedy. This is not quiet disappointment, it's public spectacle. The press, hungry for drama, reprints the harshest phrases. Satirical cartoons appear, mocking the young composer's brooding looks and heavy harmonies. In Moscow's cafes, the symphony becomes a punchline. The city that once celebrated his genius now questions whether it ever existed. Inside, the collapse is total. Rachmaninoff withdraws. He avoids the piano, cancels appearances, and stops composing altogether. For months, he drifts through days marked by insomnia and silence. The hands that once thundered across the keys now rest idle. The identity forged in conservatory halls, pianist, composer, prodigy, feels hollow. Even close friends describe him as unreachable, locked inside a fog of self-doubt. The humiliation is not just professional, it is personal, existential. The young man who once seemed destined for greatness now faces the possibility that his gift has vanished, or worse, that it was never real. The world has turned, and Rachmaninoff, for the first time, cannot find his way back to music. In September 1900, Sergei Rachmaninoff stepped into the quiet office of Dr. Nikolai Dahl, a neurologist known for treating nervous ailments with hypnosis and suggestion. The composer had arrived hollowed out by failure, unable to compose, haunted by the memory of laughter in the concert hall and headlines that questioned his very worth. For 3 weeks, almost every day, Rachmaninoff submitted to a routine that was both clinical and strangely intimate. Dr. Dahl's methods were simple but methodical: deep relaxation, spoken affirmations, and gentle hypnotic suggestion. The sessions took place in the late afternoons behind closed doors, away from the world's scrutiny. Dahl would ask Rachmaninoff to close his eyes, breathe slowly, and listen. Over and over, the doctor's voice would repeat, "You will write your concerto. You will work with great ease. The music will flow from you." The process was not mystical, but grounded in repetition and trust. Rachmaninoff later described the experience as a kind of reprogramming, each session chipping away at the wall of self-doubt that had sealed off his creativity. The effect was not immediate, but after only a few days, something shifted. he began sleeping through the night again. His appetite returned. Most telling of all, he felt a sudden urge to sit at the piano, not out of obligation, but from a genuine longing to play. In a letter dated September 21st, he wrote to a friend that he had a renewed desire to work, a phrase that would have seemed impossible just weeks earlier. Dahl's records, preserved in the St. Petersburg State Medical Archive, note a steady improvement in mood and confidence from the second week onward. By the end of the third week, Rachmaninoff was not only practicing but sketching musical ideas. The fog of paralysis began to lift, replaced by cautious optimism. There was no grand epiphany, no sudden burst of genius, just a slow, steady return to the habits that had once defined him. The hands that had lain idle now moved with purpose, picking out fragments of melody that hinted at something larger. The clinical setting of Dahl's practice, with its measured routines and careful documentation, stood in stark contrast to the chaos and humiliation of the concert hall. Here, Rachmaninoff was not a failed prodigy or a public spectacle, but a patient, a man in need of repair. The therapy did not erase the past, but it offered a way forward, a practical mechanism for recovery rooted in suggestion, repetition, and the restoration of confidence. As September gave way to October, the first sketches of what would become the Piano Concerto No. 2 began to appear. The comeback had not yet arrived, but for the first time in years, it felt possible. The silence was breaking. The great hall of the Moscow Conservatory is packed, but the mood is nothing like the night of the symphony's collapse. Sergei Rachmaninoff takes his seat at the piano, Alexander Saloty poised on the podium. The air is charged. Everyone knows what is at stake, though no one says it aloud. The opening chords of the Piano Concerto No. 2 ring out, dark and resonant, the sound of a man reclaiming his voice. Rachmaninoff's hands, once paralyzed by self-doubt, now move with authority. The orchestra answers, and the hall fills with a sweep of melody that is both grand and intimate, storm-tossed, yet unbreakable. As the final notes fade, the audience erupts. There is no hesitation. Applause crashes forward, sweeping the hall. People rise to their feet. The demand for an encore is immediate and insistent. The concerto is played again just days later, an honor reserved for the rarest triumphs. Critics who once doubted him now write of the return of a master. The press records the ovation as one of the longest in recent memory. For Rachmaninoff, this is not just a successful premiere, it is a public resurrection. The proof that the power he once feared lost has returned in full force. The concerto itself becomes a symbol of recovery, of resilience, of genius tested and restored. The question of Rachmaninoff's power is not just a matter of legend or memory, it is stamped into the grooves of shellac and the numbers of early recording ledgers. In December 1925, Rachmaninoff entered the Victor Studios and recorded his own Piano Concerto No. 2. The first movement runs close to 112 beats per minute, faster than most interpretations before or since. The piano's bass explodes out of the mix, registering dynamic peaks that rival a full orchestra. These are not just expressive choices, they are a kind of sonic fingerprint. The tempo, the weight, the clarity, all measured, all preserved. His hands, already famous for their reach, translated the impossible into something concrete. In the 1934 Rhapsody on a theme of Paganini, he sets the left hand flying through octave runs and block chords that demand both brute force and control. The score's density, 43 notes per measure at times, pushes the limits of what a single pianist can do. Early recordings show him accelerating through climaxes, then pulling back, shaping the music with a physicality that is almost orchestral. On tour, the effect was global. Programs from New York, London, and Berlin list his name alongside his own works, a rarity even among composer pianists. Each performance reinforced the idea this was not just a composer, but a phenomenon. The Victor discs, the Paganini Rhapsody, the relentless touring, these are the artifacts that turn myth into evidence. Rachmaninoff did not just play with power. He recorded it, broadcast it, and left it for the world to measure. Rachmaninoff's music still surges through concert halls and film scores, proof that raw power and deep vulnerability can coexist in a single artist. In an age obsessed with perfection, His legacy reminds us that greatness often rises from the ruins of failure. Today, the line between collapse and comeback is razor thin, and genius lives where struggle and resilience collide. What resonates endures. Let me know your take in the comments below.